GM President Rick Wagner got the gate from President Obama today. Here's Michigan Governor Jennifer Granholm reacting this morning on the Today Show.
I know that Rick Wagner has worked for that company for 31 years, and he is a good man. He clearly is a sacrificial lamb, but I think that he would say that he's doing what is important for the future of the company and for the future of jobs.
Joining me right now is Michigan Governor Jennifer Granholm. Governor, thank you for joining. You're sympathetic with the GM president who was just sacked. Was he doing a great job?
Well, look at last year, Rick. I mean, General Motors got the Car of the Year by J.D. Powers, got the Car of the Year by Motor Trend magazine, got the Green Car of the Year. It's not as though they have been producing junk. They have been producing quality vehicles, and the objective validators show that. He's also been in the middle of a massive restructuring plan, and believe me, we're ground zero. We're the poster child for that restructuring plan having occurred. But the GM and Chrysler and Ford and all the auto companies got slammed with this recession. So the question is, how do we move forward? And what I heard today was a president who, frankly, I'm optimistic is going to stand behind a domestic auto industry that produces the vehicles that will reduce our dependence on foreign oil.
What is it with the auto industry? I mean, I'm looking at American know-how, and there's companies, high-tech companies. You think of Microsoft, you think of Apple, you think of heroes in American industry like Billy Gates. You think of Steve Jobs, kids around the world. I once saw a Vietnamese kid over in South Vietnam just raving about Billy Gates. We don't have heroes in our auto industry anymore. What's the difference? Why doesn't it work that way?
I mean, I disagree that we don't have heroes.
Well, name one that's a worldwide hero. Who's a famous automaker today? A guy or a woman we all look up to and say, great, I want to be that person. Name that person.
I would say Bill Ford Jr. would fit that bill. He's somebody who wants to move this industry to lead the nation in making us independent of foreign oil, of making the green vehicle. We produce, in Michigan, the most technologically advanced mass-produced product in the world. There's more technology in your car than there is in your computer. It's got thousands of parts in it. It's extremely sophisticated. All that robotics. We are having the National Robotics Championships right now. Michigan's got more teams in robotics than any other state in the country, more high schools involved. The bottom line is that this is exciting stuff. We just have to make sure that we support this industry going forward. And most importantly, Chris, and I know you believe this too, is supporting the communities and the families that have been affected. The people who are making these cars, and this is what the president said today, through no fault of their own, and who are proud of the product that they create, have had the rug pulled out from under them. We need to make sure that we support those communities, those families, and the industry as well.
The problem is that companies like Chrysler have had their hand out since 1980. This isn't just a cyclical problem. It's a trend problem, isn't it?
No,
the need for federal money is a trend problem. It's been getting deeper and deeper since since Iacocca.
No, I mean, so it happened once before, and that was obviously at a time when there was probably very high gas prices and people weren't buying. The bottom line is that in that Chrysler deal, the taxpayers got their money back plus. Now this industry is slammed with a recession, and every other country is providing help to their auto industry. And so this country is now going to do the same, but giving it tough love, tough parameters in which to be successful, and I think they can be.
Let's look at the hard numbers. General Motors has gotten close to $13.5 billion. They won 16 more. That'll be about 30. Chrysler got 4. They won 5 more. This is big bucks, and I guess I have to ask you about the auto industry. Is America finished if we don't have an American brand? Do we need an auto?
Yes.
Why is that important? Well, make the case. Why is it important that it's not called Hyundai, it's not called Toyota? Why is it important that it's called Ford and it's called GM? Why is that important?
As a nation, we've made a decision that we're going to become independent of foreign oil. As a nation, we've said we're going to be energy independent. If you don't have an auto industry that's producing the means for you to get there, then you have outsourced your ability to be energy independent. Now we rely on foreign oil. If we produce the electric vehicle, or if some other country's company produces the electric vehicle, right now all that battery technology is in Asia. You will have just shifted your reliance on oil to reliance on foreign batteries. We need to be able to be energy independent, and the automobile and the storage, the electric vehicle, the battery technology is one way of getting there. And in addition to that, Chris, if we want to have national security, you have to have a manufacturing sector to be able to produce the means to keep your nation secure. If you don't have an auto industry, you will not be secure as a nation nation because you won't have a backbone like manufacturing to be able to put people to work in producing the means to keep you secure.
Governor, let's listen to the president on this very point.
It's a failure of leadership from Washington to Detroit that led our auto companies to this point. Year after year, decade after decade, we've seen problems papered over and tough choices kicked down the road, even as foreign competitors outpaced us. Well, we've reached the end of that road, and we as a nation cannot afford to shirk responsibility any longer.
We've been papering over the problems. Do you agree with that, Governor?
No, I don't think we've been papering over the problems, but I do think that there were decisions, management decisions made years ago that didn't lead us to the kind of industry that we want today in terms of fuel efficiency and electric vehicles, and Rick Wagner would have said that and has said that. But the question is, where do we go right now, Chris? Where are we headed? And what the president said today in the clip that you didn't show was that he is going to stand up and fight for us, fight for those families, fight for those communities, and fight to have a viable auto industry one way or another.
Well, let me show you some more. Here's some more of the president today. Let's hear more of President Obama.
Let me be clear. The United States government has no interest in running GM. We have no intention of running GM. What we are interested in is giving GM an opportunity to finally make those much-needed changes that will let them emerge from this crisis a stronger and more competitive company. The situation at Chrysler is more challenging. It's with deep reluctance, but also a clear-eyed recognition of the facts that we've determined after careful review that Chrysler needs a partner to remain viable.
Do you think GM will make the tough decisions and cut out the models that aren't working and focus on the ones that do work? The president cited, I think this is dangerous territory. And if you're saying that, I agree with you. The president of the United States suggesting which models are going to work. He's saying Buick is great. Maybe he could have said Cadillac is great. Maybe he could have said, but Pontiac's not going to make it, and maybe the Hummer ought to go. But is the federal government the right party to be making these model decisions?
I think what the federal government wants to see is a viable industry, and that means a skinnied down, streamlined industry where the stakeholders have made concessions so that the debt is off the books and they can see a path to viability going forward. That's what they want. That's what the Auto Task Force has been working on. Nobody wants the government running the auto industry, but we do want the government to be a partner with the industry, and that means partnering on research and development related to the battery, partnering on health care so that we've got a uniquely American solution to the cost of health care in this country, partnering on infrastructure related to that electric vehicle, the things that we can do. Everybody's got a role. The government has a role. The government has a role in other countries as well. But the question is, can we get there in 60 days or 30 days in the case of Chrysler? I think we can, but everybody has got to work in that direction because bankruptcy should be a last resort.
We in America count on the profit motive to get people to do the right thing. That's our basic American notion when it comes to business. And yet I'm told that when the UAW gets together with the auto manufacturers, they decide they have to go with a bigger car, the heavier car, the SUV, because that's where the profit is. That's where the per-car profit comes in. And you need that kind of per-car profit to pay the health care costs, to pay the union fees, to pay the workers' salaries at the level we'd like to have. Is there a structural problem that leads the American auto industry to continually make decisions that don't go with the hybrid car, that don't keep up with the foreign competition when it comes to state-of-the-art automobiles? Is there a problem which has to do with health care costs, which has to do with union contracts, the need to get a higher per-car profit out of the business? Is that a problem?
I think that there is no doubt that the SUVs were more profitable. I think that's no doubt. But I also think that there is a model here where the government can help to take to scale the technology associated with the electric vehicle. In other words, help to buy down that initial cost of the price of an electric vehicle so that we don't have the early entry to be so expensive that it's a barrier to production and a barrier to profitability. I think that's a role that the government can play, is to bring down the cost of that early technology, to bring down the cost of the battery so that, in fact, people, everyday middle-class folks, can buy a car.
Okay, thank you very much, Governor Jennifer Granholm. Thanks for coming on Hardball tonight on this big night.